We always deliver. I'm talking about Australia's performance. Our performance has been strong.
We always deliver, just like DHL.
We always deliver 3 degrees of global warming.
What matters at the end of the day is outcomes.
What matters at the end of the day is outcomes. Is it a problem if those outcomes are crap?
So that's quite a lot of spin in one very little sentence. That's spin density.
Spin density. 3 on the spin density. Bap, bap, bap. Hi, I'm Richie Merzian. I'm the Climate and Energy Program Director here at the Australia Institute.
Hi, I'm Polly Hemming. I'm an advisor in the Climate and Energy team.
Today we have a special episode of Spin Bin, where we'll be looking at an interview by the Minister for Emissions Reductions. It's a little spin there as well. Minister for Emissions Reductions and Energy, Angus Taylor. And we'll be looking at a speech and interview he gave ahead of the Biden Leaders Summit in April. Let's get started at unraveling the spin.
Oh, I can't wait.
New emissions targets will the Australian government be taking to the Biden Leaders Summit this week?
Well, look, Andy, we constantly update our projections.
So Andy, the 7:30 reporter, asked him, will you be taking new targets to the Biden Summit? And he said, well, we'll be updating our projections.
Yeah, there's a figure he could use, it's a super simple figure, but no, he hasn't even committed to that yet.
Because really, Australia doesn't have a strong target. And so instead of saying, yeah, okay, we will increase our target, he just says, yeah, we'll just look at how we're managing on that target.
On our outcomes versus our targets. 2030, of course, is the target now. Those targets are a floor on our ambitions, not a cap. We'll meet and beat them.
They're a flaw on our ambition.
I still haven't heard a number there
Yeah.
on which to increase.
So Australia's target is 26% emissions reductions. That's the floor. The higher part would be 28%, but they've never actually said that they're going to take 28%. And to do that by 2030 from a 2005 baseline, which sounds like it is significant, but isn't really significant, isn't it?
It's not. Are we allowed to give a spoiler about whether the Australian government did actually take increased targets to the Leaders Summit?
Oh yeah, sure.
No, they didn't.
No.
They expressed no ambition.
The Australian government hasn't expressed any ambition since it took those original targets to the Paris Agreement 6 years ago. Unlike the United States, which increases the ambition to at least 50%, Canada to 40%, Japan to 46%, the UK to 68%, the EU to 55%. Actually, they make up all the members of the G7. And so when Australia goes to the G7 and says, hey guys, how's it going? It's me, Scott Morrison. They'll be like, oh yeah, it's you. How's your budget looking? Is it good?
I'm looking at it regularly.
Yeah.
Do you know what else he did though? Is instead of committing to a more ambitious target, he just decided to say what other countries weren't doing. He decided to throw shade on all the other people at that Leaders Summit on climate.
That's leadership.
That's classy.
That's leadership, yeah.
When countries continue to rely on coal for a significant amount of their energy, or invest in new coal factories, or allow for massive deforestation, they will hear from the United States.
Thank you very much for your attention.
The US is threatening to get heavy.
Is the US making this somewhat veiled threat about calling countries concerning to you?
The US and Australia and other countries around the world all want to see emissions coming down. This is not about declaring war on industries.
Who said anything about declaring war on industries? Like, did he hear the same point that we heard? So they basically said the US is increasing its ambition and it will tell people who aren't increasing their ambition to increase their ambition. He's like...
But he was talking about coal. So the US said if people continue burning coal, then we'll be having strong words with them. And I think Taylor's preemptively going, no, you don't touch the coal.
Yeah, don't touch the coal.
You don't touch our coal.
Don't
That's our
touch our
precious.
coal. Yeah.
There's no place for coal. I don't think there's even a place for coal in children's stockings at Christmas anymore.
And then a dog whistle, right, to all the supporters that they think are out there who are going to get triggered by someone threatening what they think is a livelihood for this country, right? But that is the way that we stop climate action. We say that this is a war on fossil fuels, this is a war on industries, this is a war on our economic welfare, if coal and gas is so important as Australia thinks it is, as the Australian government claims it is, despite it not being so, according to so much research that we do here, right? What they're missing, and this is the real sad bit, is there's no vision. There's no vision for what society looks like when we actually have a safe climate. So putting aside the fact that it would just be nice having a safe climate, less extreme weather events and less severe weather events, sure, that would be nice. But even the economics of it are inside of building this new future, right? The Europeans are investing billions. The Americans are investing billions. Like, how is this not exciting and not a vision that we should back onto? Well, it's because you've got your head so firmly in the past.
So that's quite a lot of spin in one very little sentence. That's spin density.
Spin density. 3 on the spin density. Bap, bap, bap.
Our outcomes are strong. They're better than comparable countries, including the United States.
Ooh. Just throwing a bit of shade there. Let's just poke the world's largest economy there.
And host of the summit.
Yeah, and host of this summit. Yeah, and close ally. And close ally. By saying we're doing better than the US here. The US just said that they're going to at least half their emissions. Australia's not even doing half that.
I'm just saying that we always deliver. I'm talking about Australia's performance. We're 19% down as of this year. Better than Japan, better than Korea, better than New Zealand, better than Canada. Our performance has been strong.
We always deliver, just like DHL.
We always deliver 3 degrees of global warming.
So if we look at our emissions, Australia's emissions vis-a-vis the US, how are we going? Because according to Angus Taylor, we are doing much better than the Americans.
90% is an interesting figure. The way we have reduced our emissions by 19% is kind of by accident. It's largely related to changes in something called the land sector, which is kind of technical and we don't need to get into it, but it's basically a lack of land clearing, also some rain, which has helped, and drought. But if we take all that away, our emissions have actually increased by 7% across those sectors of the economy that actually matter.
Wait a minute, that doesn't really sound like meeting and beating.
No, it really doesn't, does it?
So basically, if you look at the sectors that are highly reliant on fossil fuels, right, like transport and electricity and industry and the energy you burn on site for heating and all those kind of things, the emissions from, say, digging up more fossil fuels, they've gone up, which means our economy has become more reliant on carbon, not less, since 2005.
Yep. And if we take out that same land sector and look at what the US has done, they've actually reduced their emissions by 11% since 2005.
They've reduced their emissions?
They've reduced.
Okay, and we've increased.
Yep.
And we're doing better.
Yep. So take out the trees and stuff. Don't worry about that. It's quite technical. The areas that matter, we're pew, and the US has declined.
Okay.
So
maybe that's American exceptionalism. Are you going to tell me that other developed countries have also actually decarbonized their economy?
I think you know this, Richie.
No.
Tell me how.
Are you saying the UK has decarbonized by at least 30% off the same 2005 baseline?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Or the EU almost 20%? All EU countries, the largest trading bloc in the world. And then even Canada has done better.
Yep.
Even New Zealand has done better. I think he was throwing shade on all those countries,
yes,
though.
He was.
Yeah,
yes,
that's
he
it.
Was. We've done so much better than other countries.
Yeah.
The criticism being made of your government is that it lacks leadership and commitment over climate change goals. How do you respond to those critics?
We have the commitment and we're delivering. What matters at the end of the day is outcomes.
That's the only time I've agreed with him.
Yeah.
In this interview, it is absolutely outcomes that matter.
It's outcomes that matter. Is it a problem if those outcomes are crap?
I would say so. I'm not sure if Angus would say so.
Yeah.
When he says delivering, does he mean billions of dollars in fossil fuel subsidies? Is that what he's talking about?
I don't know. I mean, but
what is he delivering?
I mean, because if the outcome is, hey partner of mine, I promise that I won't cheat on you often. And I'm going to deliver. I'm going to deliver on the outcome to not cheat on you often. That's what I'm going to do. In fact, I'm going to beat it, and I'm going to cheat even less than I planned originally when I gave you that promise. right?
But I'm not going to set a very ambitious target.
Yeah. But what matters is I'm delivering. I'm delivering by being almost faithful. That's what I'm delivering.
I'm cheating less. Right. I'm cheating less, and I'm going to beat that target.
I'm meeting and beating my cheating targets.
Slight infidelity.
Yeah.
Is this comparable to emissions?
Well, I mean, as long as you offset it.
Yeah.
As long as you offset.
What matters at the end of the day is delivery. And we are delivering. We'll continue to deliver. Our goals are strong. We do want to get to net zero. We do want to get there as quickly as possible.
As soon as possible. Ideally, sometime in the next millennia.
What does that mean? That is super spin. Delivering what? We haven't reduced our emissions.
No, but it looks like we are, according to UNFCCC accounting rules, which Australia negotiated to work in its favour. We're delivering. We're delivering.
Good.
There is a sense that the government will have to move and renew the emissions targets sometime this year. Are you ruling that out before Glasgow or ruling that out before the next election?
Well, I've always said, and I said it a moment ago, that we always update our emissions projection.
We always update our emissions projections. That's right. How's your budget looking? It's good. I've updated it. You're going to actually try and do more than... Nope. We're just updating our projections.
Australia provides one of the most transparent carbon accounting and projection regimes in the world.
Here's my budget.
Each year we update those projections. We'll do that this year as we have in the past. They have improved every year since we've been in government.
Improving projections.
Projections improve because you get better at making projections, not because you actually reduce emissions, right? Unless you see them saying we are using less fossil fuels, then everything else is spin.
Can you just explain what our projections are? Is that a projection of what we think we're going to spend in terms of emissions, or is that a projection of what we think we're going to save in terms of emissions?
No, it's both. So it's a projection of where we think our emissions are going to go, right? And then a projection of how much the emissions will reduce based on the programs that the government have decided upon. And in both senses, they're like, oh wow, we're not increasing emissions as much as that, so that lowers. Oh, and our programs may be lucked out, maybe because renewables are so cheap, so people want to put on rooftop solar, so things are working out even better. So they're lucking out, right? Just like all the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, all those things they tried to kill off are now resulting in great investments. They delayed a lot of renewable energy investment because they tried to kill everything in 2013-14. That moved to later on in that decade, which we're now benefiting from. So it's quite frustrating. But let's see where we go.
Confident that will continue.
The Prime Minister has hinted recently about committing to a mid-century net zero target.
Hinted.
What's to lose if the government could just make that announcement? Why can't you just make that announcement? Everybody else is.
Yeah.
Well, our goal is to get to net zero. That's part of the Paris Agreement. We want to do it as soon as possible, preferably before 2050. We've been unambiguous about that.
Yeah. Preferably before 2050.
Our goal is to before, but not we will by.
I want to be fit and healthy, preferably before I die, you know?
If I ask my daughter to clean her room and she says, Mum, my goal is to make my room clean, preferably by the end of the day, it's not going to wash.
No.
Diplomatically, that is not going to wash.
No, but she has a strong preference for it. Yeah, she's not going to promise to do that because then she'll have to meet and beat that and actually do it. As long as you have a preference. Preferably.
The real challenge for the world on this is how to do it. Every year since we've been doing this, since we came into government, we've improved our position versus both our 2020 and 2030 target.
Because they've got a better calculator.
He says how we're going to do it, but does he ever tell us how he's going to do it?
No, he's gone back into the past just to show off that he's got a better calculator. That's basically what he's done.
That will continue to be the case.
The US has announced it will cut their emissions by 50% by 2030, requiring us to double our targets to keep pace, according to the Australia Institute. So if you're the Minister for Emissions Reductions, why aren't you doing the same?
Well, we'll continue to improve our position year on year, as we always have.
So they will just calculate their things better. They'll just keep doing that, and they'll keep lucking out from the fact that people want to do the right thing, you know? So the research that the report is talking about shows that the US taking on a target of halving its emissions, at least by 2050. Australia should take on a similar target. That would be a similar proportional effort for Australia for the size of Australia. That would be fair. That would be the minimum of what science requires. Instead, Australia is doing half of that, but saying, don't worry, but we'll deliver on this crappy thing rather than actually doing what's fair and what's right. And he can't give a reason for not doing that because at the end of the day, he just doesn't want to. The Australian government doesn't want to. Otherwise, they would do it.
I'm interested to say what matters is how we do it. How are they going to do it?
Well, technology, I guess.
Not taxes.
No, technology, right?
Okay.
Like carbon capture and storage, which has worked so successfully that after over $1 billion spent, we don't have a single fully operational commercial site in this country. So more money to the fossil fuel industry to pretend to bury emissions underground, even though they've never really done that. And just yesterday we heard more announcements. Here you go, Santos, there's some more money. Hopefully that helps you with your enhanced oil recovery.
So they say technology, not taxes, but presumably they are throwing billions of dollars of taxpayer money into these carbon capture mining pits?
Yep, exactly. So
is it tax?
They're using tax revenue
Yeah.
to support the technologies of oil and gas industry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a successful strategy. It's worked to date.
Yeah.
So you can't knock it because they still meet and beat what they sign up to,
Which is nothing.
no taxes, money, tech money for their friends.
And no result.
And that's how they're going to meet and beat their things. And then go to these conferences and then just throw shade on countries.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a good diplomatic and economic approach to climate change.
I'm so proud right now.
It's outcomes that matter here.
Outcome.
It's outcomes that matter. That's right.
It is. It absolutely
and
is.
the outcome is that we need to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees. And right now, with all the collective efforts, even the increases from the Biden summit, we're at more like 2.4. Right? And that's with Australia not doing more, and Australia being one of the largest polluters in the world, in the top 10%, being one of the largest exporters of fossil fuels in the top 3, Australia not wanting to do more, right? But saying it's outcomes that matter. The outcome we need is a safe climate. A safe climate means we have to be at least doubling our efforts going forward. We need to stop opening up new fossil fuels. If that's not happening, then it doesn't matter what outcome the minister's agreeing to. So what outcomes are we looking for?
If you want a safe climate for yourselves and for your children, if you have any, if you would like to avoid catastrophic flooding and bushfires in the future, then spin like this should really worry you, because what the Australian government is trying to do with interviews like this is convince Australians that everything is okay, nothing needs to be done, and the status quo is going to get us to a safer climate. It's absolutely not. We'd love for you to share this video if this sort of spin worries you. We'd love for you to subscribe to Australia Institute TV.
And since it's the end of the financial year, if you can give, we appreciate that as well. We're a research not-for-profit, and all the money that you provide, we just pump straight back in to doing things like this and some of the great research that we have going on more broadly.